Terrain and culture, two things that have defeated the world's strongest militaries. It doesn't matter how much firepower you have. Without local knowledge, defeat is certain. America learned this in Vietnam, the Russians learned it in Afghanistan, and last year China learned it in the Galwan Valley. Chinese soldiers are bred in the plains. They're used to the warm and wet tropics. But in high altitudes, warfare is about survival, wearing heavy padded fatigues, withstanding sub-zero temperatures, marching up steep valleys. Your average Chinese soldier is simply not cut out for this. So what does China do? Look for new soldiers, men who are used to this rugged terrain. And they've settled on Tibet. It seems like an obvious choice. The Tibetan terrain is similar to the LAC, or the line of actual control. By hiring soldiers from Tibet, China is trying to tick the two boxes, terrain and culture. Reports say 2 batches have been recruited already, 2 batches of 100 soldiers each. The first one has completed training with the Chinese army. They have been deployed across the Chumbi Valley in Tibet. Now, why is this important? Let me pull up the map. The point marked in red here is the Chumbi Valley. To the east is Bhutan. To the west, the Indian state of Sikkim. The Chumbi Valley is shaped like a dagger. And this dagger is pointing right at India's Siliguri corridor, what is often called the chicken's neck. So Chumbi Valley is a strategic choke point. And that's where the first batch of troops trained by China is. The second batch is still being trained. They are at the PLA's facility in Fari. It's important to note that these fighters are not Chinese soldiers. They do not wear PLA uniforms, Chinese military uniforms. They do not have ranks or designations. They are a militia. China's plan is to exploit their guile and local awareness. Another point to note, unemployment is rampant in Tibet thanks to China, so recruiting these men is not really a challenge. But ensuring their loyalty, well, that's the real task. How is China planning to do this? By swapping communism for some good old religious play. You won't believe this. The Tibetan recruits are apparently taken to Buddhist monks. They are blessed after their training is complete. There is no record of China ever doing this. So why now? To win their loyalty, of course. Shocking how times change. The same China massacred these monks in the last century. And now they're being venerated for military gains. The perks of having ambitions and not principles. So that's part one of China's plan, to hire local fighters. The second is to acclimatize PLA soldiers to high altitude. So China carried out a massive military drill in Tibet. The PLA called it record-breaking. The drill focused on 3 tasks. 1 is training with cutting-edge technology, 2 combat exercises, and 3 high-altitude training. The drills were organized at a height of more than 3,700 meters. Snipers, field repair and rescue teams were all part of it. The PLA's aviation unit also got involved. They deployed attack helicopters while the ground forces trained. We know the drill happened in Tibet. But where in Tibet? Well, China won't say. What should India make of these moves then? There are 2 ways of looking at it. 1, the PLA is not exactly invincible. Their high altitude capacities are woeful. And it was exposed during the clashes in Galwan. The problem is, Chinese soldiers are much like Chinese goods, assembly line products. In 2010, there were 2.1 million Han servicemen in the PLA and just 4,300 Tibetans. Most of the Han soldiers do not do well in the hills. So Chinese invincibility along the LAC is a falsehood. Does this mean advantage India? Well, not yet. As we just told you, China is fast closing this gap. They recently set up the Special Tibetan Army Unit. Now they're hiring Tibetan militias. It doesn't take long for China to tweak its assembly line, so these Tibetan tactics must be watched carefully. Reports say the LAC disengagement has stalled. And we know there's no one better at biding their time than the Chinese. Local soldiers will change the complexion of the LAC, and they will even out the terrain and culture advantage that India may have. So this is a time for vigilance and suspicion. If China is preparing for battle, India, at the very least, should be on the lookout. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.